Hey everyone, this is Rod and I'm back to talk to you guys about the Trial of the Sword. This is the first part of the coverage of the DLC expansion we're going to be talking about this week for the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. The Trial of the Sword is going to be a really cool thing, guys. If you played Wind Waker, if you played Twilight Princess, the Savage Labyrinth in Wind Waker, the Cave of Ordeals in Twilight Princess, it looks like the Trial of the Sword is going to be a similar thing. However, you see here, I'm practicing on Eventide Island. And guys, if you haven't been here, it's a really cool place. Some spoilers. When you arrive at Eventide, what happens is you lose all of your gear and you're forced to take on these monsters. So here, I'm practicing, right, with a bow I found on the ground from beating a few monsters with a rock. And then I use that bow to take out a few more, pick up their weapons. You notice here I'm going to drop a weapon that I have in order to pick up their weapon. Again, kind of just practicing for this next adventure. Now, in the Trial of the Sword, guys, what's going to happen is once you get to Korok Forest, where the Master Sword lies, Nintendo says you will have to face an onslaught of enemies one wave after another. Link starts the challenge without any equipment or weapons. When all the enemies in a room are defeated, Link proceeds to the next. Clear all the trials, about 45 in total, and the power of the Master Sword will be awakened and it will always be in its glowing, powered up state while usable. Now this is huge, guys, because one of the biggest gripes I've seen with this game is that the Master Sword isn't important. The Master Sword being something that isn't critical to beating Ganon, that isn't essential in this game, and that breaks like the other weapons. And obviously you get the Master Sword back. It's the Master Sword. You're always going to have it once you get it. But the fact that it breaks and you can't use it for a period rubs some people the wrong way. Now, what this means is that the power of the Master Sword is going to be unleashed. You're going to be able to use this at its full power at all times. Probably going to increase its durability by an awful lot, which is going to be really cool, really exciting. But this is going to start out much like the Eventide Island. Again, once you land on Eventide, you lose all your gear, and you're going to be starting the Trial of the Sword the same way. You're going to be losing all your gear, and I assume you're going to have to fight through the ads with things you find around the room, possibly metal boxes, explosive barrels. You might be able to use your runes so you can summon some bombs, things like that. But you're gonna have to be using your wits a lot, I feel like, in the Trial of the Sword, especially considering the fact that they're taking all of your gear away from the get-go. So this is a very exciting thing. Again, the reward is the powered up full Master Sword that's not just the glowing 60 attack Master Sword we see when we're around Guardians or in the castle, but anywhere on the Breath of the Wild landscape in this world, we're going to be able to use the sword now, and it's going to be able to just tear through enemies, which is going to be nice, especially because it's such a durable weapon once it's in its full powered state. So it'll be a really cool thing to have. Now, guys, one of the biggest things I want to say is that I don't think we've seen the end of DLC announcements with this DLC Pack 1, Pack 2 for Breath of the Wild. We're going to be talking more about that. I already talked about the future of Breath of the Wild, and we're seeing already that this idea that they've introduced with Eventide Island, the survival, you're stripped of all your gear, you have nothing to use but your wits and what you can find to fight monsters, being put into the Trial of the Sword. I think that's an awesome way to introduce this small mechanic that was used for a shrine in the game into an end game thing. And I feel like we're going to see a lot more of this interesting stuff going forward. Any other little interesting things we had before, any other weird mechanics we've seen in the game, we might see come back, and I think that's really, really exciting. To me, Nintendo could stretch this out to be like a single person MMO type thing where we have a big end game, and I talked about that in a video earlier. But we have an end game here, and we're seeing the development of this end game for the first time with this first DLC, especially with the Trial of the Sword. Biggest thing, guys, biggest thing to me that says they're going to do more and more is that we have so much map to utilize, and we have so much space, and we've already seen that Nintendo can do a really great job utilizing this space Now what I want to see is, by the end of Breath of the Wild and the next major console Zelda, I want to see like 12 dungeons in this game on the scope of an Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Wind Waker dungeon, Twilight Princess dungeon. These big, huge, epic Zelda dungeons that we didn't really get yet. I think we're going to be getting through expansions later on down the line, and I would love, love, love to see that. So that's just me speculating a little bit on what we're going to see in the future. And we're going to talk more about that, especially as these DLCs drop and develop, and we talk more about the details. So again, guys, I'm Rod. Expect a lot more content from me this week about this DLC drop that's coming up. We're going to be taking an in-depth look on every single part of it, or at least as much as we can. We'll probably combine a few little parts into one video, but we still have to talk about the new map feature, the new fast travel feature, the hard mode itself, which is going to be a good video, I think, and the new gear that we're going to see dropping. So guys, keep your eyes peeled for more content this week, and make sure to check me out on Twitter and on Twitch. The links are going to be below in the description. I'm Rod, and I hope to see you soon.